Welcome to the Beacon Way podcast, hosted by award-winning executive team of Beacon Media and Marketing. With over 3 decades of experience, Adrian, Jennifer, and Ken give you an insider's view of what's working, what's not, and what's on the horizon for digital marketing. Grow your business today with the Beacon Way podcast.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Beacon Way podcast. I'm excited today to welcome our special guest, Stephanie Sweeny. She is the founder of Integrated Nurse Practitioners, and she has 10 years as a certified nurse practitioner and had her own personal experiences with depression and anxiety, and that really launched her into creating a whole new special thing that she's going to talk to us a lot about today. So welcome, Stephanie. And yeah, is there anything you'd like to kind of add to that introduction and kind of what you're doing now?
No, you hit it on the nail on the head there. I'm a woman who struggled with mental health things, anxiety, PMDD. My periods were terrible. Got the typical birth control thrown at me, walk it off, all the things we get, and became a nurse. Became a mother of 2 children, had some postpartum OCD kind of stuff.
Right.
Not severe, but enough that I can look back now and go, oh, that's what that was about.
Right.
And then became a nurse midwife, which is a very high pressure situation. I worked for a large university system, and we did some rural healthcare where I was 24 to 48 hours on call, catching babies left and right in this little town of Springfield, Tennessee, and I just loved it. But there I really began seeing my story showing up in other women's stories, if that made sense. I've always been drawn to women's stories, and I just listen. I've always been a listener, and I've heard that over and over my life. Steph, you just always want to know my story, and it feels good. And I knew that felt good, but I didn't always know what to do with the story. So I just collected them for a long time and added to some of my experiences, other women's experiences, as I walked with them as a midwife through many things. I mean, beautiful babies being born, babies not being born alive, bad days, good days, left field days where everything was fine and 10 minutes later it's not.
That was my story.
Yeah. And as a midwife, I had to be strong through that, but I also got into some burnout and carrying all these women's stories. And the most frustrating part was that when I knew they needed more help for their mental health or their energy levels or their postpartum things, there really was not a good source to send them to. I mean, I worked for a great big university hospital that had a psych department, but these women weren't ill enough, or their symptoms weren't big enough.
Right.
And so they left it for the general practitioners, us nurse midwives, the teams to manage it. And we hadn't been really taught much more than give them some Zoloft, or birth control, or that was it.
Right.
That was all. And at the time, I thought I had this great education that I paid so much money for, and I learned all these things, and I can catch a baby, and I can handle that. But when it came to what do I do with this woman that's just churning in this OCD and depression, and I can give her some meds, but if it's the wrong one, she could end up in the emergency room. I didn't want to hurt. I needed the help. So I don't know if you asked me to keep going, but
no, that's fantastic. Yes.
So I was really frustrated, really, really frustrated, because I don't do things halfway. If I'm with you all the way, and we're going to figure it out. There's no backing down off of that unless you tell me to. And I felt a real strong tapping on my shoulder to get back to school, even though I said, if I'm never doing that again, it's a bad idea.
Fair. Yeah.
It's too much work.
Oh,
and
bad.
I fought it for a while. But these women kept showing up in my clinic and in my hospital ED, and the nurses would be like, Stephanie, they're coming because they know you'll help them. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So I went to school and I got a post-grad in mental health.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And that's where I really figured out that neither women's health field or psychiatry actually know what to do with women because
Mm-hmm.
they really need to be blended. And we
Mm-hmm.
also need some functional stuff in here.
Right.
Why can't we look at our labs? Why can't we see what's really going on? Like, why are we
Mm-hmm.
being dismissed before an actual look under the hood? And the honest answer to that is, for every woman that's ever been dismissed and told, just here's some birth control pills, the providers don't know
Right.
what to do.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so that wasn't a good enough answer. So now I've got a midwifery degree, a mental health degree, and there's still a little piece missing as I start seeing women in a full-time capacity where I'm seeing 15 to 20 women a day.
Wow.
And sure, I could get the ones that just had some depression, anxiety better. If I could pinpoint the diagnosis, then I could really start getting them there. But there was still this other piece that I felt like I could get them to 70 or 80 of their ideal life, feelings and emotions and energy, but there was this other piece left. And that's that functional piece where hormone imbalances, metabolic, insulin resistant, which is rampant in our country.
Oh man, yeah.
All these other things are really hammering on our hormones, which decreases our energy and increases our cortisol, which really just puts women in a tailspin. So we do all of that here. We are going to talk about your physical health. We want to know what's going on there. We want to know about your menstrual period, all of that stuff. And then we want to know about how you're feeling, what your energy is. And then we're going to do a deep dive in your labs, because if your vitamin D is low, or you've got other things, anemic, we see that all the time. There's so many things that we just can tweak that. These women, in about 6 months, they're thriving.
Awesome.
So we're really excited to put this all together. And I should have broke that up a little bit better, but
no, I
just get so excited about like where we're going and what we've done and what we've built here.
Well, that's part of why I was really excited to get to talk to you today, because of how you're pulling all those pieces together. I got to see a midwife, and we had a very traumatic experience. Like you said, everything was great until it wasn't. And she was amazing. She walked me through everything, rode with me in the ambulance, because my son decided to rotate at the last possible second, and I still tease him. I'm like, you entered this world as you have continued to live in this world with great fanfare and sirens and lights. And look at me, here I am. He's an amazing kid. He's 17 now. And, but just the experience of her talking to me holistically about stuff. But even afterwards, like, I had to juggle her and a functional medicine doctor, and, then the OBGYN that actually helped deliver my son through C-section. I mean, it was like, if you could have painted your worst possible picture short of him not making it, that's pretty much what happened. But again, it was, even in those situations, she was a light through all of it. But I still had to juggle all of these different providers and getting them to talk to each other. And like, I feel like I walked around with a book of my medical records for like 6 months. And I was exhausted. I had to go back to work 6 weeks after I had my son. The person who was supposed to cover for me, it all fell through and fell apart. And it was just like, so the fact that you're pulling all that together for women is so powerful. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm excited to keep digging into like how you guys are doing that, because I think that's a model that needs to be shared and done. There's pieces in mental health too, or men's health, but there's so much that complicates with babies and hormones and all that kind of stuff into the mix that's really unique.
For sure. Our roles and the demands placed on us, it's hard to put ourselves first, but we also run into so much burnout that we end up making our symptoms worse, and we get endometriosis and all these endocrine disorders that are just plaguing women. And it's really cortisol and stress and bad diets. Like, we all are eating food that we just should not be eating.
So true.
But sometimes it's just what it's there. I lived in a hospital for 10 years and I was the heaviest of my life and I felt the worst of my life when I live in a hospital. That just was always really hard for me to understand. But so there are so many different, and exercise, there's so many areas of a woman's life that it's overwhelming for her to say, oh, I need to do this and this and this and this and this. So what we do is we come in and we get a big picture of what is really right now.
Okay.
And then sometimes that just feels amazing to have somebody say, girl, yeah, like this is real.
Right.
You really are feeling this piece here.
Yeah.
Let's do this or that.
Right.
And then, hey, like on your lab, your vitamin D is really low and so is your B's. Let's work on that. That's going to give you energy. And then we say, and then, why don't you get early morning sunlight for your sleep rhythm? Like, and we're giving actionable items, and then we're giving follow-up too. Like, we come back in 6 weeks and say, hey, how did it go with the sleep? How did it go with going outside first thing? And that's a simple thing. Right. I don't need to write her a prescription for that.
Right.
But just me encouraging her and telling her, I promise you do it for 2 weeks, your sleep's going to get better. It's going to be amazing. And if not, we'll work on your hormones. Probably need some progesterone. So you know what I mean? Like we kind of try to come at it real natural and walking you and not just giving you a list of all the things you should have done better. Like that doesn't help anyone.
We don't need to hear that at that point. No.
Yeah. In traditional medicine, if you go, that's what they tell you. Well, you need to lose weight. Right. Well, you need to take these birth control pills. No, I don't. I need somebody to walk with me. And that's what we do.
I love that because I feel like oftentimes, especially coming off of a baby or even just a big life change too, because that can very quickly send us back into a tailspin. Being able, it sounds like part of what you're doing is even breaking down this great big mountain, that adage, how do you move a mountain? One rock at a time. And you're breaking down that whole mountain into just go outside and get sunlight in the morning. Because I know, again, that was my experience. I heard that from a lot of other women too, of just like you said, when they throw everything at you, I'd love to lose weight. But how do I do that and breastfeed and run a business and try to figure out what's going on between my husband and I now that everything's changed and, all of those different pieces. We don't need a mountain. We need somebody to walk through us and go, okay, just do this. All right, good job. Now just do this. I love that you guys are doing that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, we really want to see and hear women and give them that space. They actually do the work themselves. Yeah, the meds, the hormones, it helps. But the women do the work. And as midwives, we all recognize that the women in our care, we're just there to encourage them and to show them where the path that, move the little bit of the brush aside and go, look, girl, there's a path right there. Let's go. But not in a judgmental or forceful or hurried way.
Yeah.
And so because we're midwives first and we've been in that space where we have to really hold for women in their most vulnerable times, that's a muscle we have and we do it well. And I'm proud of it. I'm so proud of that. And that the team that I've chosen to work with us too, that is what I'm looking for in midwives that have these mental health degrees that are working with us. If they have to have that thing where they want to guide and be with women.
Yeah. Well, and how powerful is it to know you have a partner walking through that, and that you're not alone on that path. I think so often it's very easy to feel isolated and alone. And I mean, I was in Alaska when I had my son and it was going right into winter. I mean, it was just like, I got this newborn. I'm like, there's no way I'm going out on the ice. And so you guys, y'all have to come to me because I'm not going out right now. It's just like, I don't trust myself. And I grew up there, but it was just like, I got this little baby. I want to trip and fall. Everything's different. And it was so isolating. And I have a very supportive family and some good friends. I had the kind of a support system that a lot of people, dream of. And yet it was still very lonely at that time. And again, I think you guys are really addressing a lot of that in that, hey, like you said, let's just move this brush just a little bit and the path's still there.
Look over here. Yeah.
Yeah. It's right here. Let's walk this together.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm going to check in on you in 2 weeks and you can text me on our communication app if you are worried. If it's 2 a.m. and you have a thought and you need to get it out, put it there and we'll talk about it. We really do care about women and our patients.
Yeah.
We want them getting well, but when they're in the thick of it, we're right there with them, as supportive as we can be via text messages and in appointments.
Wow.
And I really think it shortens the suffering or the extent of it when you have someone checking on you. And sometimes that's all she needs is just, will you check on me? And teaching her to say, will you check on me, to other people too? Hey, I've been kind of doing, can you check on me in a week and ask me, so I don't have to be brave and just say it out loud again. And so we teach a lot of coping and communication skills, and that it's okay to have emotions and feelings and feeling overwhelmed. That's being a woman.
Yeah.
It totally is.
Yeah. Calling it out. And like you said, I know asking for help is not something I do very well. It's something I have to work on a lot. I'm better than I used to be, but oh man, do I suck at asking for help. I know.
I know, but that's our culture, right?
It's our culture, and it's definitely when you're in the position of being a business owner and being a leader. And it was a big transition for me to like, okay, I don't have to have all the answers. I can just say, I don't know, let's figure that out together, kind of a thing. But I think, more by my dad's an entrepreneur, my grandmother. I grew up with a lot of entrepreneurs in the family, but a lot of them were just like, well, no, you just, you face it till you make it, you figure it out. And so it was just kind of like, okay, we're going to figure this out. But not always pulling in those around to help. And so I like the community that you're building. I think that's a really beautiful piece of it, because women, we're relational. We need and we crave that community. And it's really important to have that, to have your tribe. I mean, you think about the villages and the way humans have evolved most of recorded history. There was a group, there was a tribe, you had support. It feels like way more than we do now, especially in the Western United States with social media and doom scrolling and all these kind of things. Like there's so much of me and I work in this industry, and our industry is social media and whatnot, but there's a big part of me that I think longs for that part of us that's in our DNA, that craves that community, that craves that tribe, of that support of the other midwives in the community, the other moms that have been there, done that before. And I grew up in a really big church, but that was something I miss from that world, was when somebody had a baby, we all cooked. We all did. We were there. It was like, or somebody passed away, or something, whatever it was. Like there was a community there, a support network that was kind of built in, that if we don't intentionally create that, it doesn't, it's dying in our world, if not pretty gone. And it is. So that's a really amazing thing that you're building there, because we need that.
Yeah. We're also working on starting an alliance for other healthcare providers of any kind, therapists, OBGYNs, pediatricians. Like as caregivers, we understand burnout, and if they're women, we understand that they're juggling a lot of things. We are too. So we've started the Empower Her Alliance, and that's going to be our network, where not just referrals going back and forth, which is lovely, and we want that, but we also want to provide some space for other providers to be seen and heard, because that inside of our practice has been the real thing that helps us as nurse practitioners get out of that burnout, get out of our cortisol, get into being able to be with women, but not feel all of their pain, because that's not great. We don't need that. And we know that that's a struggle that we're doing every day with each encounter, like, a little bit of a pull and take, and it's exhausting. And not always our spouses and partners and people and our family don't always understand it. I get a lot of, well, Stephanie's just on the computer all day now, every day, so it's but it's not just that. I'm still giving. And so every provider is, and we know so many OBGYN, midwives, women's health nurse practitioners that have gone through traumas and things in their careers, and they never had anybody to really talk about it with. And and maybe their labs are off and that's why they can't sleep either. And,
Good
we
point.
want to do the same,
Yeah.
but we want to feel safe, because as a midwife, when I was going through some emotional and mental health things, I didn't really feel safe to share it to my colleagues or even to maybe the therapist I was sending patients to, because that puts me in a place that, and we just want to take that away and say,
Yeah.
we take care of women no matter what. But if you are in this caregiving space and this giving, we have a special place for you where we're going to give back to you.
Wow.
And really make sure that you're well, because if they're well, they can help us affect so many more women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think us women tend to carry a lot. Yes, we definitely do.
Yes, we do.
Yes. It's like, I had somebody tell me one time, they're like, that really, I don't think that's your mountain to carry. I think that's your mountain to climb. And I found that quote later and I was like, that's a really good one. I got to remember that.
Yeah.
Because
I
tend
one
to
rock at a time.
Yep. Because I tend to carry all the mountains.
We do that. That's because of who we are. And you're kind of in that space where I think of other professional people that are carrying the loads of their practices or their patients that they had today or their business.
Absolutely.
Sure. And it's heavy.
Yeah, for sure. So what are some like encouragements or tips that you might share often with your patients that our listeners out there might be able to benefit from? Maybe the entrepreneur, like you said, that's a new mom, or maybe the second or third kid. Like, what are some encouragement? You were mentioning like the going out and being out in the daylight, which I love that one. But what are some other ones that you found to be really effective for people?
Yeah. So our sleep-wake cycle is huge for women. We often neglect it because, everybody else needs us. And finally, when it's dark, I get a little while. And so sleep is so big for women. We don't think about it enough. We don't make time for it enough. And then, like I was saying, early morning awakenings and going out into the sunlight as the sun is coming up can be the most powerful thing you can do to start your day and get all of your hormones kind of up and moving, push through that cortisol that kind of spikes early in the morning that wakes you up, and it gets you right into that place where you're set up well. Exercise is super important. I don't tell my patients to exercise. I say, girl, we got to get you moving. I don't care what kind of movement you do, but we're going to start moving. And sometimes it's just walking. And then other times when women are stuck in some stress and needing to make decisions and they can't think because it's so much, I tell them, go for a hike, and I want you to go for a harder one. Like, because you have to find your power, and it might not be a hike. Maybe it's, I want you to go play basketball with your kid. Like, I want you to go do something that's going to put you in a place where you're having to push forward and do a little bit more. And they go do this for 20 minutes and come back and go, okay, I think I need to do this and this and this now.
Wow.
And it just kind of clears things up. So movement is lovely. And knowing what movement you need when you're stuck is a big deal. So sometimes we have to try 4 or 5 different things before we find the thing for her. And once she finds it, then that's a tool forever.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So you were saying that you really want to help all women. Are there specific or women in specific situations that are really ideal for you and your practitioners? Are there kind of certain specialties you have, like you were sharing about caregivers and stuff like that? What are some other kind of maybe areas you guys really enjoy specializing in?
We take care of women from the time they get their period until the day they are no longer here on earth with us. We care that much. And each of us has our specialty that we kind of thrive in. We all work very much the same. So, if we have a teenager with PMS and anxiety, school scary stuff, we have providers that specialize in that. Not that any of us can't, but sometimes we'll move people around to fit better.
Sure.
We take care of women with ADHD, whether they're in their 20s or even late diagnoses. We do that. We help women through menopause and beyond that with their hormone replacement and how that's affecting their mental health, foggy, not being able to remember things, all kinds of things are coming up there. And a lot of times, if earlier in their life they've had some mental health symptoms or illnesses, then that gets exacerbated with menopause, with hormonal changes, just like when it was our period coming and going every month. When our period goes away, we really lose a lot of those hormones that kind of gave us who we were. And so we missed that, long for that. So I wouldn't say there's a subset. You have to be female. That's our little niche, and we love it. We do take care of some men that are attached to our women at invitation by the nurse practitioner, taking care of that woman. Because if the house is healthy, the women will thrive, the babies and children will thrive, dad will thrive. And we are midwives, so we're pro-family. And we do that. But we don't take women unless they are attached. I mean, we don't take men into our practice unless they're attached to one of the women that we care for.
That's a really beautiful holistic component too. Because I remember my husband trying to help me through, postpartum depression and, nursing issues, of which there were a whole lot, thanks to the traumatic C-section and all of that kind of thing. And he was just like, I just wish I knew how to help you more. He's just like, I feel so helpless, and
all of our appointments are telehealth, and we often have dad hanging out there with mom during her appointment, especially in the postpartum period, because she can't remember as well. She's feeling a little not on edge with us, but there's just a lot and she can't remember as much, and he wants to help. So we encourage that. We don't mind that at all. We want to make this a family thing.
Very cool.
And any woman that's ever had any kind of mental health symptoms in the past that's pregnant or becoming pregnant, we put her on a plan where we know we're going to check on you here, and here in your pregnancy. And then 2 weeks out, I'm going to see you.
Right.
Even if we just check the box and everything's great, that's fine. But going into it, knowing you have a plan feels so much better. And we are going to get dad in on that plan too. So he knows the signs, and they don't even really have to talk about it much more than just they have a plan. And that feels really good.
Yeah, that's really amazing. So since you guys do telehealth, can you pretty much help anybody in the country?
So right now we have providers that are in 5 states. Tennessee is our biggest and our home base.
Cool.
And we're super loving Tennessee right now. And then we're in Kentucky, Virginia, Florida, and Oregon. And we're hoping to expand in 2026. We should be able to get some more states out there.
Very exciting. Okay. So so for any of our listeners that are in those states, there's a really amazing resource if you haven't already checked it out, for sure. So what advice would you give for somebody who's maybe fearful about starting their own business or launching into their own practice, maybe feeling held back, whether they are a mom and trying to figure out how to juggle work life, home life? I like to call it work-life harmony, not balance, because I don't think there's anything. We never achieve balance. It's always point and counterpoint is what it feels like for me. Sometimes the treble's taking the lead. Sometimes the bass is taking the lead. It's always a counterbalance. But anything from your journey or others' journeys that you've experienced that you could encourage somebody who's maybe thinking about it themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of a rough road.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared for a long-term commitment. I think I was a little naive on the build-out side of it. I thought, I just start seeing patients, the computer part of it, the pieces part of it will just fall into place.
Sure.
And I will say that has been very challenging. So especially in this digital age, I'm a midwife. I'm a nurse practitioner. I sew things up and order prescriptions. Like, I can drive a computer, but I don't know how to do marketing or any of these things. And I have found that just being authentic in everything has always just kind of led me in the right place. I might have gotten into a corner I didn't want to and just turned and went somewhere else, but just continuing to look for people to work with that appreciate your authenticity and who you are and your passion for what you're trying to build. And if they don't have that, walk, don't run, find somebody else. Don't waste any time trying to convince them that you can do this. You need champions on your side, or you're going to slow down or possibly not keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. We got enough doubt in ourselves. I think the last thing we need is somebody else feeding that, right? And maybe somebody going, hey, I walked this road, like you said, like, let's move that bush aside. Like maybe this path's better than that path at this point, but we're walking it together. Not like, I don't think you should.
Go, hey, look over here. Yeah. It's right here.
It's just right over there. Yeah. Turn a little bit this way. Yeah. There's definitely been some people through the years that have been that of just like, you could walk this path, but 2 steps over, it's a little easier over there, kind of a thing. And I've definitely appreciated, I haven't always listened well, but I have appreciated
Well, it's hard when you got a kid on the hip and a steering wheel and you're like, what are you, I can't see it. I'm just going to keep going. Okay.
I saw this
What are you talking about? I can see it at all. What are you talking about?
Exactly. I saw this hilarious video. A guy was doing like, exercises where, he's extending this way. Somebody's like, why in the world would you ever need to do that exercise? And then it cuts to this mom, handing this back to the kid, grabbing this, trying to steer, doing her own drink and all these things. And it was like, yep, that's it. That's it. Exactly. That's it.
Yes. We have to be flexible.
Yes. My son, he calls it flexi. He's like, it's a good thing we're flexi. We're flexi around here. And I'm like, I like that. So I steal that one. My team has.
So with a therapist at the top of the family, I'm thinking you guys are pretty flexible.
For the most part, yes, we're pretty flexible. My husband's definitely more the like, hey, this is what we planned. We're going to do this, kind of a thing. So he balances out my son and I being, ooh, bright shiny object. Ooh, bright shiny object. Squirrel. It's like, wait, we're doing this. Yeah. So we balance each other out. But yes. Well, as we wrap up today, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners, either about your company or just about your story?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything. We're happy to take referrals for women in the 5 states that we serve, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Oregon, and Virginia.
Awesome.
And you can check out our website. It's womensmentalhealthspecialist.com.
Wonderful. And we'll put that list of states and the link, as well as a link to their social, all in the comments. So it's easy for everybody to find. And Stephanie, again, thank you so much for taking time to talk to our listeners today. It was an absolute joy to hear what you're doing. And I just really applaud you and say thank you very much for what you're doing for women. It's really powerful.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope you'll join us for our next episode of the Beacon Way podcast.
You have been listening to the Beacon Way podcast. Make sure to join us for new episodes every week. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Beacon Way on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.